Ender Lilies is one of the most overlooked metroidvanias of the recent years. And it is truly a shame, because this game has one of the most interesting mechanics I have ever seen. After defeating an enemy, you purify them, gaining the ability to use a weaker version of them in combat. These weapons you get after defeating enemies are called spirits, and they can be divided in two different types. Main spirits, which you get from defeating bosses that also give you progression abilities, these spirits being your main source of damage, and what I like to call consumable spirits, which you get from mini bosses, this being a good way to squeeze some extra damage in or do some crowd control. With this in mind, I pondered if it is possible to use only consumable spirits to beat the game. So, the question is, can you beat Ender Lilies with only consumable spirits? As I woke up from a very long nap, I was greeted by a guy who I will only use once in the entire run. By the time you encounter the first boss, you are unable to get any consumable spirits, so this will be the only one exception in the whole run. And we will also use the guy that woke me up. You can feel that this game is a metroidvania from the first boss alone. By that I mean, only a game journalist would die on this boss more than 3 times. Besides the fact that this is the only main boss in the game that gives a consumable spirit, there isn't much to say, and after his defeat and a presentation of how she felt at the one thing she was supposed to do, we finally get the first consumable spirit. My first instinct when I went outside was to get more weapons like a true American. So, I got the bomb worm, continued onwards and got the parry. A horse that I forgot to mention followed me. Who's a good boy? Or girl, I don't know. I went into the Forbidden Forest and got the Deviantart Cloud and the Beyblade Witch. After all of that, I used the horse and fast traveled back to get an enemy from a generic bullet hell game. With enough spirits in my possession, I went back into the Forbidden Forest and I was ready to fight my first boss. I knew it was going to be tough, but I didn't expect what was about to happen. I beat her third try. Wow, it looks surprisingly good. This challenge might not be as hard as I thought. Well, shit. So yeah, the boss that is supposed to be the first boss of the game is pretty much unbeatable. Wait, what is that? Oh, it's the ever-present farming aspect of every goddamn challenge on this channel. Thankfully, it only took about 20 minutes to get enough blight and upgrade my spirits in order to kick the shit out of him. But don't you worry your pretty heads, of course this is not the last farming segment of this video. Now with the first two essential power-ups in my possession, I opened a new path, and I swam across the minefield waters to a new location, the catacombs. In here I got the parry and I also got lost. After some time, I went through the worst room in the entire game, even with normal arsenal, and I also got one of the highest damaging spirits in the entire game, the Archer. This spirit fires arrows in a line, and if you fight a boss with a big hurt box, he's by far the best damaging source in the entire game. Anyways, after some more fooling around, I finally got to Guardian Sylvia, and I was not able to beat her first phase with only one spirit set, so I ended up upgrading the parry. The fight was tough. In her first phase, she moves a lot and I didn't really have any spirits to waste, and neither any good openings. The best thing to do in this fight is to wait until she decides to attack you in a normal way, instead of doing the 10th jump in a row, so you can actually parry her and make sure her attacks will connect. Otherwise, she'll mostly dodge everything you do. After you kill her in phase 1, she transforms into a bigger monster. Would it surprise you to know that she's related to the first boss of the game? Anyways, the second phase is way more aggressive, but her hurt box is also way bigger, so just use the Archer and look at her as she dies. Huh, I guess being incompetent runs in the family. With her defeat I was awarded a dash, and I just went straight up to the snow area. And after getting to the first respite in the area, I went to fight the Dark Souls 1 boss, but as a 1v1 this time. With the nostalgia out of my head, I continued onwards into the worst area in the game. It is the worst area mainly because of the fact that it's not a fucking area. It is a glorified huge puzzle. Oh, and the eyes. Yeah, those things terrify me. At the top of this area, I finally got to the obligatory boss on a flower field from every hard game. I tried to fight him once or twice, but I was a little bit too weak, so I decided to upgrade the parry and the bird. In terms of build, for some reason when he gets stunned, he stays stunned way more than any other bosses. So I used the stun and parry loadout until he got stunned, and then I switched to a full damage one. As a boss, he is probably one of the most tough and uncheesable bosses in the game, especially his second and third phase. His first phase is nothing special, he just jumps around and does the most parryable attacks in the game. His second and third phase are pretty much more of the same, but he is way faster and he has two attacks I needed to watch out for. In his second phase I parried his X attack, since the dodge timing is pretty tricky and I dashed through his wave attack. In his third phase try to parry the double wave, since dodging it is very hard if not impossible. And with the best boss in the game down, I finally got the obligatory wall jump ability from every 2D game. With this I went back to the beginning area, and I killed the wall that blocked my path before. I also killed a peaceful dog for no reason. I guess supposedly from Lily's bloodlust? The next area was pretty much okay, until the fight rooms. Yes, so instead of slamming my head against them until I got lucky, I went back to get some upgrades. I went and got the arachnophobia in flesh, and I also got the worst but AoE parry. Besides this, I also got some chains of sorcery, so I can equip the crown, which will stagger enemies easier. Mind you, this didn't make the fight rooms a cakewalk, but it made them more manageable. After some time, I finally got to Knight Captain Julius. He was not hard, but not easy either way. I used whatever I had in his first phase to damage him, but I needed to attack right after he attacks, because otherwise he parries pretty much every attack besides the poison. In his second phase, I just baited his dash and used the parry combined with the poison cloud, since if you parry his dash, he gets a short stagger and ends up taking a lot of poison damage. Phase 3 was more of the same, but I stayed relatively close to him compared to the second phase, mainly because of the anime beam. I watched his story about his daddy issues, and after the fight I contemplated leaving the kingdom, but I decided to stay and go for the true ending for once. I was on my way to the next boss, and the following area is kind of only that, the next boss, because it was almost laughable how easy it was to slip past literally every enemy in the area. Hoenir was not even close to the word hard. The words for him are annoying and slimy. The hardest part about this fight was finding an opportunity to damage him, because he moves a lot. His first two phases are pretty easy though. You can use pretty much anything you want to damage him. In his third phase, he gets aggressive and starts to actually attack you, just like a bullied kid who finally had enough. But of course he's not a threat. Just go in the corner, use the garlic breath, dodge his spin kicks and look at his health bar melting. You may think, when is he gonna talk about the discount Abyss Watchers? I won't. As long as you stay close to the corners, they are barely a problem. So, just avoid the middle. With every power up in the game in my possession, I finally went into the verboten domain. This area is pretty much a glorified find the two levers game, so I won't spend any time on it. I'll just let you know that I died in this area. A lot. With the two levers activated, I used the lift and I got to the boss that I thought will end my run. Your mom. Initially, I thought your mom will have too much health and I was ready to go and farm, but after some thinking I said to myself, wait, this is the boss with the most exploitable range attack and the biggest hurt box in the game. I am not in danger. I am the danger. After that, I met a guy who I think it was your father, and his backstory is that your mama was so fat. Anyways, after this, since I wanted to get the true ending, I did some backtracking to get the stone tablets. I got the one in the cells, I got the one in the cat, I got the... As I was saying, I got the one in the catacombs, I got the one in the swamp, I got the one in the castle. I also got the verboten champion, which will be useful in the last phase. I got the one in the Kingdom's Edge. I got the one in the starting area. And I went to get the last one in the verboten domain. Okay, I might be okay now. Jesus, that was close. Now it was finally time for the Blighted Lord. Well, this is awkward. Okay, I won't bore you with the details, but just so you know, this is the build that I used to kill her. And if you are wondering how I got my spirits to level 5 or 6, and how I got from level 70 to level 90, well... What? You thought the challenge from this channel won't include heavy farming? Come on now. That is like wanting to play a good AC game in the last 3 years. With this build, I was able to easily defeat the Blighted Lord and purify the land. Unlike real life, I got to feel like my parents were proud of me, and I finally finished the challenge. This was by far one of the most fun challenges I did, and I strongly recommend that you do it too. I want to thank you all for staying here until the end. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next challenge.